can go ha 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 ha. Look what you've done. Ha 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 ha. I'm the motherfucking Sargon. From this moment on, I am Sargon. I run this shit. No, fuck Sargon. Yeah. Our shit. We are now taking questions. Anybody think yes, you.
Do you believe in 1,000-year pug right?
1,000 years? Yeah.
Do you believe in the 14 woofs?
I believe in everything I read on the internet. Yes, sir. The righteous man with his hand up.
Tell us about your sex life. You should take a minute.
That's private.
Sargon acts like he fucks. He has not been with more than 17 or 18 women in his life.
Nothing wrong with that.
Less than 20 women. What kind of man fucks less than 20 people in his life?
A soy boy!
Soy boy! Soy boy! Soy boy! Soy boy! Soy boy! Any arguments? Who thinks I'm wrong?
Yes, sir. I'm a Christian. I came last night. My girlfriend thought it was a miracle.
This man here is a Christian. Let me tell you something about Sargon. He rejects the Lord and Savior. Allah said, bless his soul. He will be going to hell.
Can I ask one?
Yes.
Right. You know like the black says nigger, nigger, nigger and all that. What does the white say?
Cracker, cracker, cracker.
The white says, fuck my life. What happened? God damn. Look away for 10 minutes and look what the fuck happened. Shit. Yes, sir. The ginger. The ginger is a decrepit, horrible creature that stealeth your soul.
Or trapped gay.
Traps. Being gay is still on the being tested for truth. Well, I'll tell you who is gay.
I was.
Sargon.
Yes.
I was gay. When I saw you, I changed my mind.
Good. And a question. Yes, sir.
You're defiling the 5 pillars of keg.
Whoops. Yes, sir. Everybody here is now a vegan.
No.
That's right.
No, I eat pussy.
I bet you do. The first black man to eat pussy right here. History in the making.
What about eat that pussy 4 from 5?
Yes, sir. That's right. I take it there's no more arguments, no more disputes, sir. You see all these vegans and red pills and Muslims and Kekistanis and Pakistanis, they get up and talk shit, but they cannot accumulate a crowd because they don't speak the truth. This man right here.
Sorry.
Did you make that music video, I'm Not Racist, with the black guy? You look like, is that you? You're from that rap song. You look like the guy. Accept it, own it, embrace the meme.
I drive a race car. I'm a racist.
That right there is some top-notch quality comedy. This man is not afraid to go there.
How do we get the autism here under control?
How do we get the autism under control? I believe we are way past that.
Wow.
Let me tell you something about the government.
Oh, boring. Let's talk about sex.
Fuck are you? The government.
Let's talk about
The government sells. They take the drugs from the hustlers in the streets. They lock up the hustlers and then they sell the drugs right back.
Good. That's why we make money.
Yeah, that's why they shit. This man right here is righteous.
Oh, where's the Aborigines between 2003? Where do they go after that?
My friends, I am the new Sargon and you are all my quadrons. Any other questions?
Why were you born?
My man here says my time is up and the cops are on the way. Ladies and gentlemen,
They can't take all of us.
I would like to now introduce Sargon, but he is not here because he's late. He's sitting over in Kennedy Fried Chicken. Alright, before we wrap this up, because the truth has been told, can I get everybody to go, one more time. Look what you've done. I'm the motherfucking Sargon.
You done that?
America! Everybody drink Coca-Cola! Yeah! Black power!
That's how I got here. Fuck off.
How else are we gonna get Sargon?
Sargon. What is Sargon? He's 3/4, right?
Yeah!
This is why we need to fuck minorities. We need to create more Sargons. Alright, done.
Alex, you want me to say a few words?
Alex, we got this guy.
Here you go. Give an anti-communist speech.
Sorry.
I'm not prejudiced. I hate everybody.
That's it. Alex. So I think we're still waiting for Sargon to arrive, everybody. He should be here soon. I've been asked to I've been given this flag, which apparently is an anti-Antifa flag. I'm very proudly displaying that. What does everyone think of Antifa? Absolutely right.
They're just misunderstood!
So anyone who hasn't already signed the petition to have Antifa prescribed as domestic terrorists, please do so. Let us not confuse the
I hate your haircut.
Thank you. Let's not confuse the freedom of speech with violence against speech, which is what Antifa is doing. Antifa is trying to shut down people with different ideas. This is Speaker's Corner. For the last 300 years, probably longer, people have come here from all different backgrounds or colours, or, you know, we had the suffragette movement here, we had the anti-war protesters here.
Everything.
We've had everyone here, people from all walks of faith, and everybody should be able to speak freely. Unfortunately, in the last few weeks, when we had certain groups come here, Antifa have come along and said, no, you can't speak here. And the reason why they do this is because they feel that if we give certain groups a platform, then we're letting them win. That's how Antifa see things. So they won't even engage in debate. They want to try and shut everything down. Now that is a fundamental, that is a really terrible thing. It's a fundamental breach of freedom of expression, freedom of speech. Freedom of speech, freedom of expression is laid down in the European Convention of Human Rights and under Article 10. It's laid down in the UN Convention of Human Rights under Article 9. We have to protect this, and we have to say no. We have to defend ourselves from violence and intimidation.
Thank you.
From masked thugs trying to shut that down. So anyone who hasn't already signed that petition, please sign that petition. Prescribe Antifa as a domestic terrorist group. I've been sharing it like mad.
Can I include another group? My friends have been kicked here for criticizing the Quran.
Yes. Islamophobia is modern day blasphemy. That's what it is.
Right.
Look,
we should
seriously,
all okay.
You should be able to criticize any idea.
On religion, we all have the right in this country to criticize religion. It's actually laid down in statute. There's the Racial and Religious Hatred Act 2006, and that makes a very clear distinction between individuals, for example Muslims, and the religion itself, Islam. Under that Act brought in its schedule a new section to the Public Order Act 1986, section 29J, you can look this up. So section 29J of the Public Order Act 1986 gives everybody the right to ridicule, insult, abuse religion if they wish to do so. That is our right under the law of this country. And we should all be aware of that, and we should all be able to go, when people say, oh, you're being Islamophobic because you're criticizing Islam, or you're being whatever, you're criticizing this religion, we should be able to point our finger to that text and cite it and say, no, this is our right in this country. So let's make sure that we're all aware of that. and we're aware of our rights here.
What do you think of the religious hatred bill?
I think that we are.
It tells you to criticize a thought, which is bullshit.
I think we're in a real danger of bringing back effective de facto blasphemy laws in this country, where it becomes
the Home Office a couple of weeks ago banned 3 people from coming into the country under this.
And we need to be able to criticize any kind of what I describe as collective groupthink. Ideas that people accept blindly, such as religion, where people don't think for themselves as individuals. I think that's a real threat to society, and all these kinds of ideas, whether it's religion or indeed whether it's communism or whether it's libertarianism for that matter, any ism, any kind of ideology, people should, as individuals, have the right to criticize that. And if we start saying no, you can't do that because supposedly that's a protected group or that whatever, then we're going down an extremely dangerous path.
I agree with
so let's stand up here and defend free speech.
And free sex. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
I've been listening to the gentleman very carefully. I think what we human beings need is a good quality of sex. Since we are not getting it, that's why we are here. In order to get good sex, you need good food. And good food you cannot get unless until you don't learn how to control your wife.
It's a MGTOW speech.
MGTOW! 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 MGTOW!
Teach a woman how to be a woman.
Is that why you're single?
Do you identify as a woman?
Sorry, boys.
Look,
How do you
teach a woman,
You out-woman a woman.
the best thing would be that every one of us goes home and enjoys sex.
Yeah.
And if any one of us hasn't got any partner for sex, then masturbate. Yes. So thank you very much for listening to my crap so carefully. I love to bullshit here in the speaker's corner.
It's your right.
Woman, you are the greatest creature on planet. I love you. Thank you.
I have risen, okay?
You've risen.
Now listen. Memes are not a crime.
Yeah!
They're not.
There's no meaning to memes. That's why they're memes.
Yeah!
There was no structured meaning to anything he was saying. Okay, this is where I go serious. There was no structured meaning to anything Count Dankula was saying. You can't look at something and say, I devise a meaning from it that is subjective, and then say, I'm going to build a conviction off that. That is wrong. That's like me going to a Brian Eno record and saying, he's definitely talking about kebabs. He's not. Right? Can we all agree that? Brian Eno is not talking about kebabs. Right? So this is the fundamental problem. There is no objective meaning to anything he was saying. There was no structured monologue. Yet we're combating the problem like there was a meaning. There was no meaning. He didn't mean anything by it, and that's the problem. If there's no meaning to law, and if law is not judged by its own merits, then we're all fucking criminals. Everything you can say is open to subjective nature. That is the complete core of postmodernism, and we can't embrace it anymore. It has to stop. And this is why everyone's here. You may not fucking realise it, but you're here because we need objectivity. That's what we're all here for. You know, we need to be able to say, what's he saying, what's she saying, what's she saying. Not being like, you know what, I read fucking Noam Chomsky last night, and this is what I think she's saying. That's not what's going on here. We can't do that.
So what you're saying is...
What I'm saying is...
Lobsters!
I love lobster. Can I I still
Lobster lover.
Can I still love lobsters and eat lobsters? Is that?
Yes.
But I love lobsters.
The lobsters.
The lobsters. Have a good one.
Yeah.
You didn't say anything and you're leaving.
I know. It was meaningless. Everything.
Come on, get on. You know you want to.
Alright, let the Asian man speak.
Pearl Harbor. Right. My name's John. I'm a liberalist. How many here is a liberalist? Well, excellent. How many of you have written to your MP? Right. So the MP campaign we've run so far is about 2,000 downloads, and that's not including academic agents. Right. So it's very important, right? What is happening here is what is hate crime? Hate crime is piggybacking a thought component into existing criminal justice system, right?
Speaking simple language, man.
Okay, so you should be convicted of actions, not thought.
Yes.
So you can't think something. It's literally wrong think. They are actually convicting him of thinking wrongly because he's not directly inciting violence. Everybody agrees that. The judge declared that context doesn't matter. So what he is he's thinking wrongly.
But he said against the Jews.
Yes, he does. So why should we have offensive thoughts and offensive wording? It's because you can't have a conversation that's controversial without offending somebody. Everything is controversial. Otherwise, we can't have a discussion because anything will be offending somebody. Who is the arbitrator of offence? It's the last person you want to be the arbitrator of offence.
Section 127 needs to be repealed because it doesn't need a victim in order to commit a criminal offence.
Exactly, because he doesn't have a victim. The police reported it themselves in the first place. Right, so this is what we're going to do. On April 1st, we are going to spread as many Nazi pug memes on social media as possible. Because we'll be protecting everyone knows it's a bloody joke. What are you going to do? Convict tens and thousands of us? Put all of us in prison? Yeah! Joke on April 1st because context doesn't matter. Fuck them. So, April 1st, Nazi pug memes. Thank you.
So can I just clarify, on April the 1st, everyone has to buy a pug and get them to do a Sig Heil salute. That's what's going to happen.
PCA's not going to be happy on April 2nd.
That's true. Okay, can I just expand on that? And this is Count Dankula, right? This is Dankula. This is Marcus, who's been obviously convicted of a hate crime. And the lady there who pointed out, you know, you can be convicted even if there isn't a victim, is absolutely right. And this is, again, extremely dangerous. In fact, the Scottish police, what they did, because there wasn't an actual victim in this case, like no one had actually suffered as a result, but this guy is doing, you know, teaching his pug to do a Nazi salute. Because there is no victim, it was a joke. They had to manufacture one. They had to manufacture one. So they got a guy from some Jewish, I don't know, group to do a diversity statement and basically come up with some crap to say, oh, this is victimizing a whole group, and use that as evidence in court. That is extremely dangerous. This is like, and I'm very glad that Ricky Gervais, Shapik Khorsandi, another one, comedians on the left actually have come out and said this is absolutely appalling. Shapik Khorsandi actually wrote an article about this in the Independent, saying we cannot have this. We cannot, you know, this is going to, you know, who are we going to convict next? Are we going to convict John Cleese because he did the, you know, the goose stepping march and you know, Faulty Towers? Are we going to? Exactly. Are we going to convict the guy in Father Ted who did the Nazi you know, mockery? I mean, where does it end? Where does it end? This is like just absolutely ridiculous.
I have a question. Right, in the Robin Hood tweet case, which you'll know of, right, about the Robin Hood Airport, right, the tweet about blowing it up, right, the High Court overturned the Crown Court decision because when it got to the Lord Chief Justice of the High Court, they said that intent does matter, and he was clearly joking, and therefore the menacing aspect of the tweet didn't matter.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Because they took
you cannot
intent,
have,
and that was Lord Chief Justice
you
in the High
cannot
Court.
have thought crime, right? You can have actual acts. Right, so in law you have two concepts. I studied this ages ago. You have two concepts. You have the mens rea, which is the guilty thought, and you have the actus reus, which is the guilty act. This is in English law, right? So you can have offences where the act in itself is makes someone guilty. So if you there are a lot of they're called strict liability offences. So you can basically be convicted just for committing an act. There are other acts. For example, there are other crimes rather, such as murder, for example, where it isn't enough to simply have a guilty action. You have to have intent behind it as well. That's the mens rea element. But you cannot have in law a system where you're convicted just on a guilty thought. That is Orwellian. That is thought crime, and And this is the situation we're now getting into. We're getting into this situation. You know, and a big problem I have to say with this is the legislation currently, which basically on hate crime or supposed hate crime, which basically makes it completely subjective rather, so that if you say something and someone else or a third party, it's not even has to be the victim, considers it to be offensive, then the police have to investigate it, and you can potentially be convicted. We need to repeal that, and we need to have an objective standard of what is offensive. Obviously, if you're inciting violence against particular people, then that should be a crime.
That's an act, not the thought.
Yeah, but there has to be some kind of objective standard. We cannot go on having, you know, people saying whatever, and then someone else saying, well, I'm offended by that, so therefore I'm going to bring a conviction against you. That's completely ludicrous. We have to change.
That's my question, right? This is really important. Why did the sheriff in Dankula's case not take the High Court decision into account when making the decision?
Because it was under Scottish law.
No, it's not.
Because the law is a law.
No, it's not. It's a UK-wide. The Communications Act 2003 is UK-wide. I don't know enough about the law to know about the materiality of case law when you're talking about the different individual countries that make up the UK, right? I don't know if you do, but I mean, I work partly with law. In my sphere, case law doesn't matter whether it's Wales or England, right, or Northern Ireland, right? Case law is material. You have to take it into account. So I want to know why the
legislation.
Did not take
basically in the UK, legislation takes predominance.
The
what the Parliament passes an act of government is the most important. Case law is only the judicial interpretation of that. So really the most important thing is to get primary legislation, to get Parliament to pass an act. And then that is the most important, that's in legal norms, that is the most important source of law, if you like. So that's what we need to get changed. We need to get the current hate speech laws repeal and replace it with an objective test, so there's actually some kind of objective standard. And you can't just have this situation now where I say, oh, you've called me XYZ, and then you get, you bring a, action against me in court because you've been offended. That's absolutely ridiculous.
They're not looking at the case by its own merits.
Yeah.
They're just slapping down a blanket persecution of what they think he's doing. They have no proof that he's doing it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could think you're trying to fucking channel fucking Thor, but you're not doing it.
Exactly.
You're just standing on a fucking pedestal.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Don't even have a hammer.
Fuck!
As the judge said, quote, that the court decided the context of it.
It's not a magic wand, I think.
Yeah, so apparently the courts...
But who is...
I don't know about that.
But who is the court? The court is a person. And
what I do think we need to know, in America, right, in the States, people know their judges, right? They know, oh, this judge is whatever, he has a political agenda, particularly with the Supreme Court, because they are upholding constitutional rights. People know who their judges are. People know that Justice Scalia, whatever, has these views tend to be conservative. People know that another judge has these views, they tend to be liberal. In this country, we don't really know our judiciary, because the judiciary is supposedly impartial and independent. But of course, judges have their own views on things. We need to know who our judges are, right?
People are actually around this.
Can I just make a quick statement?
Yeah.
Because as the ordinary Juden, I think it is important to make something quite clear.
Would you like to take the stand?
Yeah, yeah, go.
Yeah!
Make America great again! Make Pakistan great again!
USA! 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 USA!
USA!
You're one of the good ones!
First of all, Scottish Quangos and Scottish Jewish Quangos do not speak for me.
Yay!
They don't speak for anyone else, and they certainly don't speak for Dankula. And they certainly don't speak for context of jokes. Woo! This is simply a method of control. Kill the comedians.
Why is your hand up?
Yeah!
What's going on there?
You make me!
I'll be like this.
Yeah!
Would this be left wing?
Yeah!
Anyway. And you wipe with? Anyway. Don't stop joking! Keep the jokes going before April the 1st. And if I was to make a Nazi joke, would that make me perpetrator and victim at the same time?
Yes. Hang on. Let me report you now.
Advent McFly!
I told you!
I wouldn't even dance you. He's a grossly offensive miscarriage of justice.
Yeah!
Hi guys. I'm a short fucker.
Why are you blending into the grey sky?
As a ginger, I know what it's like to be oppressed.
No!
Yeah!
You male!
You deserve it!
No, hey. The reason why is because we are true Aryans. Everyone. The blonde hair, blue eye bullshit, fuck off, that's not true.
Yeah.
It was a misinterpretation. My voice is cracking like a 12-year-old cunt. Jesus Christ.
Go back to Ireland.
I'm not Irish, sir.
You obviously say cunt a lot.
Now, listen. Sadly, I've had friends die to defend free speech. In places such as Italy, France, Germany, they have bled and fought. This is not justice. Count Dankula was imprisoned for bullshit. A fucking meme. Who the fuck thinks memes are offensive? You have a clitoris. Fuck off.
Vladimir Putin.
Not all. Hashtag.
Illegal.
Take out jokes. Why did your friends die in Italy?
World War II.
Those are your friends?
Great uncle family.
He's Captain America!
Look,
Ginger!
Minority here.
Let's get a ginger!
We are Dankula!
We are Dankula!
Just we
Put your hand
Dankula!
up for ginger rights! I see you, son!
Yeah!
It's the left hand, the right hand's the white power salute.
I don't know. Ginger rights, free rights! Ginger rights, free rights!
Ginger rights, free rights! Woo!
That's the gingers.
What about the strawberry blondes? Are they in your intersectionality too?
Yes.
Yeah!
Right, guys, there's a lot of talk about Dankula, obviously, because it's present, but this free speech battle did not begin with Dankula. The past few weeks, it certainly kicked off whenever Sargon's event at KCL was attacked violently by Antifa, by Marxist masked thugs. Then, at that same week, we also had Brittany Pettibone and Martin Sellner were not only detained at Luton Airport, they were put in a prison at Heathrow because Martin wanted to do a speech at a UKIP conference, which was shut down again by Antifa. Instead, he decided he was going to speak at this place, but the police, the Home Office, Amber Rudd, decided that what he was going to say was going to elicit too much of a violent reaction from certain groups, so they arrested him. They arrested his girlfriend, well, detained, but in effect it was arrest. They detained Brittany Pettibone because she wanted to interview Tommy Robinson, because she wanted to interview, she wasn't endorsing whatever her views may be, but because she merely wanted to speak to him. And then, within 3 days, they were land deported, so they were held in a prison outside Heathrow for 3 days. They came here legally, They were going to arrive legally, leave legally. They weren't illegal immigrants. They did not commit crimes. So while they were put in a prison meant for the deportation of illegal immigrants and criminals being deported, to me that sounds like political intimidation. And as soon as they were deported, Lauren Southern tried to come to this country. And she was arrested under the Terrorism Act at Dover.
Best looking terrorist I've ever seen.
Terrorist mugshot competition.
Yep. So she was detained under Schedule 7 of the Terrorism Act.
He identifies as a man.
He identifies as a Pakistani man. Remember that?
Well, yeah, I guess so. Okay then. Fellow Mujahid, Mr. Southern, was detained under Schedule 7 of the Terrorism Act at Dover. Why? Because the Home Office and the immigration officials cited an event that her, Lucy Brown, Brittany, and Kaylin Robertson did in Luton back in February, where they held a LGBT stall that had a phrase on the stall called, quote, "Allah is a gay God." And the Home Office used that as an excuse to detain her, to hold her under terrorism legislation, and then deport her and ban her from life. Allah is a gay God is apparently what it takes in this country now to be detained under terrorism legislation and to be banned if you're not a citizen. And if you're not a citizen, well,
she was also prevented for being racist, but there was no racial component to any of the things she said.
Yeah, there is nothing racial in the term Allah is a gay God.
Allah is a gay God. Allah is a gay God. Allah is a gay God. Allah is a gay God. Allah is a gay God.
So that's what the bar is now in this country, according to the Home Office and Amber Rudd, to refuse you entry into the country and to ban you for life. This is the way things are going, especially given what's happened to Count Dankula in Scotland. In the case of Martin, Brittany and Lauren, I can tell you that this is going to be going to court and it will be fought. But do bear in mind whenever you speak to your MPs and you raise this issue, that it's not just Mark Count Dankula who's on the line. There is a larger battle for free speech that is currently going on.
We all are. We all are.
We are all in this. So do not restrict it to one person, although obviously in his case it is quite extreme because the guy could be incarcerated for it. But this is a wider issue and the ramifications for it all are deeply disturbing for us all.
And all the comedians that haven't spoke out against this are cowards.
Yo, James Franco, get up! Especially the comedians who have come out and said they agree with the conviction. And the MPs, like the Labour MP for Stroud, who came out and said he would rather do Count Dankula under animal cruelty as well. These are people who, the public, the electorate needs to know what their elected representatives say on their the most ancient rights that we hold.
That thing has a vagina!
I do! Yeah,
Metaphorically. You got one more step.
Yeah! She's going to break the glass ceiling at this rate.
Right, okay, I just want to make a small point, which is building on something that the speaker before last, our friend down here, our ginger friend made.
Yeah.
Which is that I think many of us here today will have grandparents and other relatives who fought and possibly died in the Second World War. And one of the things that they fought and died for was our freedom of expression and freedom of speech, so that we were free to express ourselves and say what we wanted to say without fear of tyranny from the state. And we fought and we beat the Nazis and the other Axis powers so that we had these freedoms. And it really bothers me knowing what my grandfathers and my grandparents and my other relatives went through, that we have to stand here today and fight for those rights again. So let's think about and remember what they did and realise that what we're doing here, but for me anyway, I can't speak for you, but for me, what I'm doing here is carrying on their legacy because they made such an enormous sacrifice so that we may live freely.
Hey!
Thank you. And yes, I do have a vagina.
Maybe I'll go up there for a bit.
Hello, how are you?
Hello everyone! So we're all free speech advocates, nothing is censored here, meme lords, edgelords, Kyrgyzstani flags, we're all gathered here today. Our government has been detaining people unlawfully for the benefits of communities as an excuse with a threat of far-left violence. Now, far-left violence isn't an issue here, it shouldn't be a normalised part of our political discourse. Myself, my name is Jan. I work with the likes of the Football Lads Alliance, Veterans Against Terrorism and Freedom March UK. These are great guys who have been turning up to many of these events past this month. We were just in Birmingham yesterday. There was no violence, Antifas were present, but everything was calm. Do not be scared to come outside, do not be scared to stand up here and speak your mind freely without the threat of persecution.
Do not be intimidated.
What our government is doing is unacceptable and we must all unite. Thank you.
We better
Alright, another one with vagina. Woo! This is an Aryan vagina, ladies and gentlemen. Head trap.
The whole step! The whole step!
The whole step! I'm going to fall over. Okay. So I just want to say a few words. I might not look like it, but my mother grew up as a minority. She grew up as a minority group in the USSR. My great-grandfather was tortured to death in a gulag for the crime of having German blood. And my mother, when she went to school, they refused to mark her schoolwork because she was other. Oh my God. Because she was not a part of that Soviet communist community. She was different. And nowadays I walk around and there are people with communist flags. There are supporters of communism, people who say, let's just give it another shot. And I, for one, find that grossly offensive.
Real communism.
Yes. But the thing is that just because I find something offensive should not make it illegal.
Anti-communist!
If a communist were to be arrested, just for the sake of being a communist, for saying things I disagree with, for saying things that are frankly wrong, then I would stand up and say that that is wrong. Because people have rights to an opinion, people have rights to be wrong, and people have the right to be offensive. Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Oh, lovely.
Right, let's see which one you got.
Pick a nice one.
Just 2 words, yeah. I agree with a lot of what you're saying, actually. I disagree with what the lady who no, I got bad. I'll fall over. I disagree with one point that the lady who's up here just now made. She said about communism being given another chance, you were totally opposed to it. Communism cannot be given it another chance, it has never existed. The system they had in Russia and in the Eastern Bloc was not communism, it was capitalism run by the state, it was state capitalism. We have not seen communism. If and when we get communism, it's something to be had in the future. And communism will depend on total democracy and total freedom of speech. I agree absolutely what you people are saying about freedom of speech.
I get it all now, I'm from Venezuela.
Well, I don't know what your problem is with Venezuela. I've never been there, so I can't answer for them.
I've been to Cuba. I've been to Cuba.
Well, good for you.
Just let him speak. Let him say his piece.
I've not been to Cuba. I've not been to Venezuela. So you will need to make your own mind up about these places. When I talk about communism, I mean a global system where goods and services are provided because people need them. Houses are built because people need somewhere to live. Food is grown because people need to eat. That's what I mean by communism, when it's done on a global scale. And it certainly didn't happen in Russia or China or Cuba or any of these places. These were not communist. But getting back to freedom of speech, yes, freedom of speech is absolutely vital to socialism or communism. And I'm surprised you come in here to speak at corners talk about free speech. I mean, free speech, as I said to one of your people earlier this morning, the motto of free speech has always been, I disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. Now, I can only, I don't know the full range of all your people's views. I understand you're a bit, or some of you at least, a bit right-wing in your views. no problem. I mean, if you come across somebody whose views you violently disagree with, you don't ban them, like your fella who came in from Austria, I believe, was prevented from coming in the country. I mean, that's an absurd thing to do.
Yeah.
If you come across somebody who's got a view which is totally at odds with yours, you don't ban them from speaking. You put them on the platform, as you allow me to do, and address them. And you know, so, you know, in one sense, you know, the communists and the so-called right-wingers, you know, have got something in common. But, well, we'll leave it at that.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks for speaking.
Those are very red pants.
Nice corduroys.
My trousers are as communist as I get, but my political views don't matter. What I would like to say to you is that we are perhaps the only animal that has the opportunity to offend each other. And that's a beautiful thing. I think monkeys love being offended because it means I have an opportunity to grow. Exactly, yeah. And why the hell should I be allowed to speak right now? Why should you listen to me? Are my views worthy of being listened to? Yeah. Are your views?
That's corduroys,
if
so
we
yes.
don't argue with each other, then we'll never know. Anyway, thank you very much.
Can I say something for a minute, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm from a shithole country.
Go back!
I sell t-shirts. Capitalist. You make money.
Oh my goodness.
It's £20. Come on now. Why don't you quit?
Salad corner.
You poor motherfuckers. Fuck off.
We're free speech advocates, not rich.
Free shirt advocate.
There's no money in any of this.
Tommy just joined the stream.
Pardon?
Tommy just joined the stream, so we should share it.
Tommy's on it? Okay. Sorry. Yeah, no problem.
Right. Firstly,
Probably sharing his
I'd like
Twitter and
to thank this man for his defence of our free speech, even if he's wrong and a communist, but we can't have it all. Without capitalism, we would not have such wonderful t-shirts.
Thank you.
I would agree with that, but capitalism has now outlived its usefulness. Instead of being a problem-solving system, it's now a problem-creating system.
What is the best? What is the best alternative?
Why we are here.
My friend, if all you people living in this so-called free country had their freedom, you wouldn't be standing here now protesting it.
Actually, we like arguing. That's why we're shitposters.
We need to remind the government that they do not rule us, they represent us. We are not their playthings, and our freedoms are not theirs to take away. We're born with them, we live with them, we die with them, they are inalienable, and it is non-negotiable.
Once you have a government, you are governed.
To restrict our rights is to restrict our thoughts, and I do not respect their authority in my own mind. I will think whatever I want, and they cannot stop us.
Are you in contact with Carlton?
No, but I'll just say yeah.
He's back! He's back!
He's back!
Where the hell is Sargon?
Y'all got Sargon on the phone!
Where are you?
Alright, he wanted me to transcribe this message to you.
That's not what we came here for.
He said, tell that chap to chill for a second. Alright, he said, hey, my friends, all you liberalists, I have something to tell you. It's me, Sargon. Yeah? He says, I'm a homosexual. That's why I wanted to tell you it.
I'm homosexual.
It's true.
I'm homosexual.
I always have been.
I have sex at home.
That wasn't worth interrupting.
You not try outdoor.
This man is a... Sargon says I am now MGTOW. Proud MGTOW. Alright, Sargon. Yeah. Alright, put the Kool-Aid down and come on out, man. We're fucking waiting for you.
Rocker.
Hey, you said fuck gingers. Alright. Yeah.
Anybody else get up?
How about you?
Right, I know what you're thinking. Frodo Baggins let himself go, I know.
You'll be sniffing too.
I know.
You'll be sniffing too much coke.
Oh yeah, that's that too. Yeah, I know. I was a stunt double for Frodo Baggins in Lord of the Rings. But wait to say, freedom of speech is not the only freedom under attack, and we should be wary of this. And negative freedoms are the most important freedoms to defend.
Like what? Homosexuality?
No, the right to free that too, of course.
The right to
don't forget to that, young man.
The right to free association is also under attack. Quota systems, for example, they might benefit some people temporarily, but longer term they're a very bad thing. We are not just being told what we can and cannot say, it's getting to the point now we're being told who we can and can't fuck as well. There are articles appearing saying, if you're a straight man or a straight woman and you don't find a transgender person attractive, there's something wrong with you. So the right to free association is also under attack, and we should be very wary of that as well.
I love the lady boys.
Hey!
Long live the lady boys.
Yeah!
Oh no, not you!
Oh, careful. Right, so, first off, I'm really young, and means I'm not fucking 12. 13! No, I have just started college, so I'm 16 going on 17. My college is a lefty college, which is fortunate. All colleges are lefty colleges though, but that's not really important. The thing that's important is something I wanted to bring back, which is in 2005, the law was changed, which meant in London, in the city of Westminster, it was now illegal to protest without permission from the authorities. You have to ask for permission in order to protest in Parliament Square, a kilometre around it, or even within the palace or city of Westminster. You have to ask for permission to go to the heart of democracy and make your voice heard. And if you dare bring an amplifier, well, you could get arrested, fined, and potentially sent to jail. The attack on freedom of speech has been happening for so long now. It's been happening incrementally in tiny little rules, tiny little sections. It's blame Blair, some guy said behind me. But it's rule 143, section...
oh shit, you forgotten now?
Oh, Joe, it doesn't matter. But it's
Look, it does!
Somebody Google it!
It does!
Quickly! Yeah, somebody get the fucking... I don't care. What? You don't care? Our freedoms have been under attack for so long now. We are not allowed to protest in the heart of democracy. Even here, you can get arrested if you say things that the police decide they don't like. The police, the government, the state, it's gone too far, and we need to stop it now.
Yeah!
That's why we're all here.
Woo! There we go. MGTOW, everybody.
Right. There's been a lot of talk about the law here. And that guy said he goes to Lefty College. I go to King's College London. And there were 4 societies outside that sat there and did nothing. Masked thugs walked in. The student union let it happen. People didn't care. Right?
Calm down.
Where are the moderates? Right? Why are so few people here fighting for freedom?
Obfuscation.
People don't care.
Oh, we do. We're right here. We've gone past college now, so...
There's a reason why we hate normies.
That's it. Right to your MPs.
Yeah. But it's a social problem that just... If someone doesn't care, just let them know that people are being shut down. People that should be allowed to speak. Right? It's a legal problem, but it's a social one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They're okay.
Yes.
I didn't get it.
One last time!
Please! Free shirt!
I need a
free shirt!
Free
shirt!
Come on, man!
Free shirt!
20 quid!
It's cheaper in Camden! Communism! It's all our shirts! Please!
Come on!
We'll just seize the shirt.
5!
Fucking broke.
Muslim guys over there.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Alright, just to reiterate, for those of you who want to write to your MPs, there's a template on Facebook on the Liberalist page or Liberalist UK page. There's a template to download on the pinned post. So send it to your MP to tell them that you stand for freedom of speech. Alright, thank you. Yeah. Oh, and don't forget, Nazi punk memes on the 1st of April.
And Lauren and Brittany as well.
I mailed it out, I haven't received one yet. Yeah. We got some replies, we put it on the website. Yeah, one of our guys is doing the map, yeah.
It's gone too far now.
There's rules!
Fuck the rules, I'm an anarchist, just kidding. Right, how many of you watched the interview with Jordan Peterson and Kathy Newman? You know what pissed me off about that interview so much?
Everything!
Kathy had the nerve to say, why does your freedom of Speaking of speech, trump a trans person's right not to be offended.
Don't offend her.
What right not to be offended?
She's very sexy.
No, she's not.
She is! Yeah, you cheers!
I only go for lobster women. Anyway. Let's just think about this concept. So what I'm saying is, let's think about this concept. The right not to be offended. What sort of society are we living in where that can be said on TV?
Take
and
your hands
people
out of
don't
your
even raise
pocket.
an eyebrow.
Stop playing with yourself.
Mate, wouldn't you like to see? Right. Is he here?
Yeah.
Is he?
Finally.
I want to take a quick picture. Sargon!
I've taxed it.
Scared of heights, I don't want to do that. It's nice to be able to be. It's nice being taller than everyone else for a few minutes. I'd like to say this, if that's all right.
Keep climbing, mate.
No, I'm just kidding. Right, so I haven't really got a speech, but I do have a bunch of things that happened this week that I'd like to talk about. If that's okay with you guys?
Yeah! Get stupid.
Absolutely. Right.
Now, before you start, tell us, are you gay or straight?
Do I get oppression points if I'm gay?
Yeah.
Right.
Pansexual.
I'm going to get away with a lot of stuff then. Right. So the first one is from the Sunday Times. Parsons Green tube bomber told to study Quran during life sentence. It gets better, right? So he's got 34 years in prison, and the judge told him to learn the true meaning of the Quran as a book of peace. Mr. Justice Haddon Cave said that Hassan, who was born in Iraq, claimed asylum in Britain, cynically exploited the full generosity and naivety of the system after harbouring dark thoughts, right? So, I just can't go over this, right? He literally said, you will have plenty of time to study the Quran in prison for years to come. You should understand that the Quran is a book of peace. Islam is a religion of peace.
Did the judge know that he probably couldn't read?
Judge is the ultimate
No,
troll.
he's an intelligent guy, but the thing is, when did our judges become Islamic scholars?
Yeah.
How does he know? Has he read the Quran? What does he know about
Around
Islam?
2005, apparently.
Is his name Muhammad?
But the reason is, it gets better. The Quran and Islam forbid anything extreme, including extremism in religion. Which maybe he wants to go and tell ISIS this. Maybe, just maybe, he doesn't know what he's fucking talking about.
Strap a rifle to him and make him charge.
Did the judge commit a hate crime by telling a Muslim to interpret the Quran?
Well,
Was he a
speaks
white
to a
man?
larger point, though,
judge
doesn't it? I mean,
explaining.
how is it in any way his business? But you've got Lord Pearson in Parliament saying, look, we're going to have to start encouraging Muslim groups to issue fatwas against grooming gangs. It's like, okay, so we're going to have to actually start implementing Sharia for Muslim communities. So it's going to have to be a double-speed legal system. Of course. Because otherwise, what choice do we have?
We're using a bulldozer to open a fucking door.
Exactly.
It doesn't work.
It's unbelievable that this is something that we have to do, but this is where we find ourselves. You know, personally, I would like to see the outlawing of Sharia courts entirely. I think English common law is a universal system that should apply to everyone in the country without prejudice, without discrimination, without choice.
Yes. Secularism.
Absolutely.
MGTOW.
Nice to see you again, Rocker.
What about Trolls, Heroes and Trolls song?
And just to really nail home the judge's thoughts on Sharia law, which are obviously extensive, The Independent reported this week that Saudi women should be able to choose whether to cover their head in a black abaya or just a regular head covering.
Much progressive, progressive.
So forward thinking that. It's like, how would you like to be covered up, ladies? You know, would you like an entire body cover or just something that covers everything but a little bit of your face?
They get really weird tan lines.
But the thing is, this isn't even something that's happened. This is something that should happen. This is just, I mean, at least it's the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia saying, you know, I might want something a little more progressive, but don't go too far, mate.
One step at a time.
Yeah, you know, calm down. But, yeah, the laws are very clear and stipulated in the laws of Sharia. that women wear decent, respectful clothing like men. Well, again, that's a bit subjective. It's like our hate speech laws. That could be anything that you interpret it to be. And
miniskirts are great.
Well, yeah, don't show any skin, you bloody
Wearing too much is offensive.
Honestly, what? That's not modest, is it? How can I be expected to control myself if you wear a miniskirt? Honestly. I can see loads of flesh.
H&M do some brilliant things.
Can I just say, cardigans are a timeless classic.
What happened to nudity? That was the good thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's get naked.
You probably don't want to be nude, especially with your complexion. It's for your own good, mate. Get that viral, you know. Naturally, which side do you think Jeremy Corbyn was on this argument? Well, it's interesting you say that, because that's where we're going. So the Times reported this week that Jeremy Corbyn's drive for tolerance has, unsurprisingly, given a platform to extremists. Calm down, I know you're shocked. Jeremy Corbyn with extremists, enemies of Britain, Islamists, terrorists, no! Fucking perish the thought. Yeah, right.
He's banned from Golders Green.
He's banned from where?
Golders Green.
Oh, good.
That's one place down.
So, this was a campaign against Islamophobia that was launched in Parliament by Jeremy Corbyn that gave a platform to supporters of jihad. That's really fucking tolerant, Jeremy. Good job. So, the Islamophobia Awareness Month was celebrated in council buildings, universities and schools and featured extremist speakers. For example, a man called, they don't actually list his name, but a defender of Jihadi John, the famous English-accented jihadi who was in the video cutting off a man's head in Syria.
He's just a poor soul.
Well, he didn't do nothing because he was apparently a beautiful young man. Didn't do fucking nothing.
Homosexuality banned in the Quran.
Of course it is.
How can you tell he's beautiful?
If I remember, he had a buck. How the fuck does that work?
Look, he might be beautiful and gay. Who knows?
So do they both get thrown off a roof then?
Police. Why
are they going to accuse me of racism?
Wait, you're a racist. He's too brown for you.
The memes are too spicy.
Rules we've got, honestly. So,
racist to yourself.
Actually, yes. So obviously this was done by a group called Muslim Engagement and Development, a lobbying organisation.
Muslim Engagement? That's oxymoron.
I can't say anything about it. You're black. I can't. You can say that.
Sounds like a militia.
I'm too pale. I can't say that. But a lobbying organisation whose senior figures included a campaign who supported killing British soldiers and whose activists have made statements regarded as anti-Jewish. Oh! Imagine my fucking shock! Well, that's because they were purged. That was in the Quran. Maybe Matey Boy will learn about that in prison. He'll come out as a real pro-Israel guy, won't he? So, the campaign gave mainstream respectability to individuals with high-profile extremist histories, according to the Henry Jackson Society. The hate preacher Shakil Beg starred at an event for IAM at Deptford Lounge, a community centre owned by the London Borough of Lewisham. The evening was arranged by Stand Up to Racism campaign. Mr. Beg was found by a judge to be an extremist for saying that violence in support of Islam would constitute a man's greatest deed for endorsing a fatwa, and that it is a religious duty for Muslims to be hostile to or hate non-Islamic states. This is being sanctioned by the people at the top. They are the ones organising it in your universities, in your councils and in your schools. This is the problem that we have to deal with, and by the way, you're all racists.
I drive a race car, I'm a racist.
Great. So, yeah, honestly, honestly, I'm not going to continue reading this article. It's actually pissing me off.
Did you find it grossly offensive?
I did.
Report it to police immediately.
So, weirdly, it's amazing how much you see this time and time again. So, the Women's March in the United States, I'm sure you've all heard of it, massive march, led by Linda. Nobody cared who I was until I put on a hijab and asked for women's vaginas to be taken away, so I saw.
So progressive.
And you're going to be surprised to learn that a bunch of their top staffers are leaving the organisation because of anti-Semitism.
Well,
yeah.
Imagine my shock.
Imagine.
He's making up his own one.
Hey, what's wrong with Jews? I love apple juice, tomato juice.
All kind of juice.
Oh my god. So yeah. So apparently their speaker Tamika Mallory attended a rabidly anti-Semitic speech by the Nation of Islam leader who railed against the Jewish community with conspiratorial claims that they ran the government.
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
What's the conspiracy?
You're Jewish. You're part of it. You tell us.
Twitter.
Yeah, that's right. You keep quiet now.
Where's my show money?
This is actually great, right? So he accused the Jewish community and governments of the United States and Mexico of spreading the use of marijuana to feminize black men.
Marley.
Yeah, it's not part of their culture. It's a Jewish conspiracy. Right.
Louis Farrakhan, is it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It just gets better. So Farrakhan gave out a shout out to Mallory, who sat in the audience for his 3-hour rant about Jewish people.
You must fancy Jewish women.
Well, stupid, sexy Jews. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Oh, now you're fucking poking.
It's all right.
So yeah, again, I'm just going to stop this one because it's kind of pissing me off, and because there's an ambulance coming by.
You think it's an ambulance?
Sorry? Are you not? Right, I didn't know that. Interesting.
And Sadiq Khan trying to get him back in.
Depends what he's doing. I mean, you know, I'm not against them banning someone like Lauren Southern for speaking, but she's not inciting terrorism. So it depends what I'd have to look into it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but it's cool to be banned from the UK at this point.
Well, yeah.
All the cool kids are doing it.
Well, you say there are a lot of Islamists who aren't on the ban list, aren't there? So, you know.
They're not cool enough.
So, the next Labour leader, according to Harriet Harman, should be, well... Stalin. Harriet Harman wants the next Labour leadership contest to be women only.
Diane! She's not diverse, Diane Abbott, so she'll win.
Well, yeah, Diane Abbott's going to win.
More diverse.
What about a trans woman?
Well, that's actually
it's open up for today.
Believe it or not, yeah, that is actually part of the debate they're going to have about that. So, you know, basically, lads, we can just claim to be chicks for a day. But the thing is, the problem that I have with this is not just that it's discriminatory against men, but women, you should have a problem with this too, because she's literally saying you can't compete. That's what she's saying. When they need an all-woman only shortlist, they're saying you are not good enough.
I'm offended by that.
Exactly.
And when they're I
mean, Labour's, it's not like they don't have a history of this.
How many categories of women you think will compete?
Well, I have no idea. But the thing is, they do this constantly. They're literally, it's this kind of condescending sort of. I mean, honestly, you could call it patriarchal nature of it, where they're sitting there saying, right, okay, white men, they can pay full price.
Yeah, of course.
Brown people, they're poor. Yeah. They're not capable. They can't do these things. Exactly.
Come on!
Free shirt!
But this is the thing, it's all assumption, and it's all coming from a position of superiority on their part, because the people who organise this are obviously white people. It's like, so literally her comment is literally, the men can jostle amongst themselves to be the deputy. So, oh yeah, you're not man-haters. But you're not man-haters. Got it. Right, okay.
Do you think it could possibly be because she's the only somewhat competent woman in
Harriet Harman? That's a somewhat generous assessment.
What she said about Jews.
She make a Jew somewhat. Women in Labour.
What do you mean by competent?
She advocated for paedophiles, for fuck's sake.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, but like the young man said, look at her competition.
Right.
Yeah. But
Kathy Newman for PM.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
Lobster lives matter. That's all I'm saying.
That's crustacean discrimination.
So you're saying? I like eating lobster.
Yeah. So I'm saying. Yeah. But literally, I mean, her statement is, I think we should. I think we have to be quite clear about this and basically say that there are lots of fantastic men in the Labour Party who'd be more than capable of being leader. There's no doubt about that.
I think the men should be measured by the length of their cock.
Well, any length is too much length, apparently.
Bigger than you, man.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't matter. If you've got a cock, you're out of the running, even though, like she says, there are lots of fantastic and capable men. Not that there are, but not in the Labour Party anyway. But this is the point, is it doesn't matter, it's about categories. It's about making sure you play by their rule book and them having dominance over you. That's all this is about. And you're going to be, if you're a Labour voter, which I'm sure very few of you guys are, ex-Labour voters maybe, but it's all about making sure that you are like whipped into action. You're whipped into the into line. It's just what they want to do. But this has a negative consequence because in the law, gender is a protected characteristic. And I don't even mind that, actually. That's fine. Because as Newsweek report here, a man has won $390,000, a man from Australia, because he was discriminated against in favour of a female colleague who was
a backpacker.
Basically, he was way more qualified than her, but she got the promotion anyway. And a court in Austria, not Australia.
Thank you.
Hey, look, honestly,
risky business.
It's going to be both at one point.
Well, one's Joseph Fritzl, the other's Marmite.
Exactly what happened. The case, obviously, this case has been going on for 7 years, so it's nice to see that the guy won it. But it was the Austrian Minister of Transport, Innovation and Technology, led by a social democrat politician who's currently the second president of the country's parliament. Now, I read that out because this is important. This is literally social justice nonsense at the very top of countries. This is the power and influence they have. I mean, who are you guys? You're not in parliaments, are you? You know, you're not in parliaments. You're just regular people who have seen all of this happening and have had the effect on your lives directly. The people in the top all agree with this, and now they're using this for their own benefit. They're using this specifically to discriminate against each one of you. There's nothing you can do.
Meritocracy.
Oh, fuck, we've got meritocracy. That's gone. That is gone. In fact, the reason that this guy's suing is because that's gone. Literally, the, let me find the thing. So yeah, 3 candidates came forward and they were all judged to be highly qualified for the role, but this other woman got it. Even though this guy was rated 25% higher than her, she was still selected for diversity reasons, presumably. And finally, we have a wonderful piece from the Huffington Post. I saved this to last because I knew I'd get a groan like that.
I worked there.
Really?
I drank soy on a live stream and got employed.
This is not the American one, it's the UK one, which incidentally has offices in London. I can honestly hardly believe the title. It's a direct call for censorship. Get these far-right extremists off their online platforms.
It's fake news.
Resisting hate.
Naturally, it's a picture of Tommy Robinson that they have.
Of course.
The only way to tackle the stem of the flow of extremism and abuse on social media is to tackle it at the source. Now, one might
press the block button.
Yeah, exactly. But no, but that's not the problem. Their problem is that they're being heard. That's the problem. Like Tommy put up a video the other day, 1 million views. They can't have that. They can't have millions of people hearing a dissenting opinion, which is why they literally are just calling for them to be censored. That's it. That's their end goal. They just don't want you to speak. And that's because you are doing damage to their control over the narrative. And it's this narrative that has to be broken. This is what everyone sharing stuff, posting stuff on social media, you might end up in jail, but it's doing good. Exactly. In every social movement, there will be people who get in trouble with the ruling authorities. You are challenging their power directly. There is no choice. It's going to happen. I'm probably going to end up arrested one day. Let's be fair, you probably are, everyone is.
Sargon, we've got a campaign on the 1st of April, Nazi pug memes on social media. 1st of April, because we've got extra protection. Would you support that? I made the page Liberalist and the UK one.
Nice to meet you.
And I'm the one that stitched 200 guest lists on over 3 days. That was me, but I couldn't make it because I was
I'll definitely support
that.
Is it
Sargon, when you get arrested, which prison will you go to, male or female?
Don't let them assume your gender. He can change his mind anytime he likes, it doesn't matter.
I think my wife would probably prefer if I went to a male one.
If you identify as a female, you'll get a lesser sentence.
Yeah, but I'll get it in the neck from my wife for the next 20 years, mate.
You want to be a martyr?
It's not worth the hassle. So, I mean, like...
The Guardian were calling for silencing voices.
Of course they were. Of course the fucking Guardian was calling for that. Jesus.
No, the Independent actually had one that supported free speech.
No, they had an article against.
Oh, did they multiple?
And then one for. But the one for was.
Sit on the fence.
Typical Independent. It was like, we really hate these people, but we should let them spew their hate, but we should hate them.
We've got a history of being a free speech platform, therefore we can't just abandon that.
Yeah.
But I mean,
we don't like them.
It's hardly proportionate. But,
let's talk about free sex. I'm horny.
It normally is, isn't it? Admittedly, I have to pay for dates and more, but like,
get a blowjob in return.
They start by saying, it has now been publicly acknowledged at the highest level of British policing that as a country we have a serious problem with far-right radicalisation and the threat of far-right terrorism. Okay, yeah, exactly. Right? But this is the thing. Why? Fucking why would the regular person want to become a far-right extremist? There must be something compelling them to do what they're doing.
Autism.
No, mate, honestly, I wish this was an epidemic of autism, then I would be laughing at it on the internet, there would be no greater problem, but there is a greater problem. But we know that this is the problem. This is coming from the grassroots because people on the ground in working class communities have a real problem. And they're being specifically told to shut up about their problem and deal with it. It can't go on. It can't go on. You can't just keep stigmatizing these poor fucking working class white communities and telling them, no, shut your mouth, you fucking racist. That can't go on forever. And it's no wonder that people like Britain First had 2 million followers on Facebook. It's no fucking wonder. They're the only people brave enough to stand up and actually say something about it. Whether you agree with them or not, you're going to follow them because you want to hear about this kind of information.
If you don't agree with them, you still want to hear
Exactly, and literally no one else is doing it, and therefore the progressive left are giving control of free speech, the impetus, the activism to it, to the racists. They couldn't ask for a bigger boon.
That's right.
You know, I mean, look, this is actually an incredibly diverse crowd, and I don't imagine there are actually many people who would admit to being a racist or even think of themselves as racist.
I'm racist.
I hate you. Okay, apart from but again, power and privilege, though. That's the thing. But this is the point. You know, we're all stigmatized because there is a genuine problem with grooming gangs in this country, and we need to do something about it. And honestly, all we really need to do is make the authorities employ the laws without discrimination.
That's right.
If you see a 30-year-old man dating a 12-year-old girl, I don't care what his fucking race is. And I don't give a shit how much of a racist you are. That's a crime. Honestly. Shouldn't get a round of applause. That's fucking. I mean, like, what kind of retard do you have to be to actually need to have to say that? But here we are.
Far right extremists.
Yeah.
Grossly offensive far right.
Yeah. Grossly offensive far right, who want the indiscriminate application of English common law across the entire country. These radical extremists. What lunatics they are.
Radical moderates, don't you mean?
He talked to
radical centres.
Radical moderates. That's what we are, mate.
People like facts.
Yeah, exactly.
He talked to Spencer, so they're best friends, obviously.
So, yeah, it's literally, I mean, Tommy Robinson obviously comes up in this 101 times. We're never told what Tommy Robinson has said that's racist, obviously, but why would they? they just say it and say it. I mean, Robinson was one of several hate preachers.
He's religious now.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and fuck's sake.
He grew a beard for the event.
Yeah. And the call, the entire article is just a call to have everyone who disagrees with them censored. That's the point. And shamelessly, absolutely shamelessly, a media publication calling for censorship. Can anyone think of anything more counterproductive than that? Because I tell you what, if they're concerned about the rise of right-wing radicalism, and it's happening at the grassroots, it's inevitable. Like in Austria, like in Poland, you're going to see right-wing parties rising. Who are they going to come for, Huffington Post? They're not going to go for they're not going to go for Breitbart, they're not going to go for Fox News or the Daily Mail, they're going to come for you, you fucking idiots. If you legitimize legitimize the point and purpose and make it acceptable to censor, then you will eventually be censored. You can't control everything all the time. It's coming back, you're going to get fucked.
It's a boomerang.
Exactly. It's a pendulum. It swings one way, it swings another. We need to keep more towards the centre. But thank you everyone for coming out, and thank you for listening.
Great speech, mate. Great speech.
Thanks.
Yeah, definitely the 1st of April thing.
Thanks. Oh yeah.
Yo, £2, man.
Wait, I think there was £20.
No, I'm only joking.
No, I'm not free shit.
No, I'm not selling it.
No, I want it though.
No.
Can I get some change?
Oh, really?
I can get my report. I
I'm
have
saying
your
go
email.
to sleep. They don't give a fuck.
No, they don't. So what I have is I have your email address for your video. So I said, oh, he won't talk to you. What he will say is he doesn't want his name.
Yeah, no. I'm actually not like this person because I'm not like this.
Yeah,
I don't have lawyers. You want to go to because they actually understand the cultural war, they understand the
what I'll probably do is I'll send it to you.
When are you going to do an lecture on free love, free sex?
I'm serious, man. Next Sunday.
I'm a sexual libertine.
Oh. Oh, my pleasure. Oh, yeah, thank you. Thanks for contacting me. I've had a lot of people from Venezuela say thanks for being so thorough.
Party time!
So, anytime. Watching Maduro get fatter and fatter and fatter.
Literally.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. I'm impressed. How fucking hypocrisy there.
Yeah, man.
In a country where people are starving, he sits there on national TV and pulls a snack out of his fucking desk.
And hasn't he beaten cancer like 3 times when there's no fucking healthcare for anyone else?
Survived cancer 3 times.
Zane Chowdhury, who was promoted, he's actually approaching my ex-university, and we had a referendum today. Most people voted against it, ripping down the promotion. But he's like, he had the heavy jacket on, like, now he got stand up to racism. They're trying to, you know, like, literally the outside toilet. It doesn't matter about this, your gender expression, not even your identity. Gender expression results in you being able to do what you like. And you get reported to a SJW tribunal at UWI and my university, and you say, look mate, what are you doing?
So,